everyone that is floxed out there watching this or thinking that you're floxed, you have to be your own advocate. Nobody is going to fight for you in this battle. Nobody. Because people don't understand, they don't believe. And you need to be strong in your belief and feeling that you're floxed, and don't let anyone in here. This is going to ruin your progress. It's going to ruin your healing. You know you've been floxed. You stay tunnel vision on your recovery and your health and ignore everything else. I promise you will get better. In your darkest moments where you feel like there's no way I'm going to get out of this, there's no way I'm going to get better, remember my story, because in my darkest moments, not only did I think I wasn't going to be here, I was told I wasn't going to be here.
Here we are today with Talia. So, hi Talia.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's such an honor to have you. So we are going to hear your story. So you can go ahead and tell us about your story with the med.
Okay, so I took a fluoroquinolone antibiotic in April 2021. Before that, I was very healthy. I was not someone that was chronically ill. I worked out 7 days a week. I had a full-time job. I took care of my husband, who's a disabled veteran from the Marine Corps. And I had a urinary tract infection, and I was prescribed Cipro. And I said to the doctor, because I had never, like, I don't really get sick. I don't take antibiotics. So I said, is there anything I need to know about this antibiotic? Because, I'm just paranoid about taking medication. I didn't really take medication. And I was told, no, there's nothing you need to know. This medication is safe and effective. We use it all the time. So, okay, that was it. And I took 3 pills, according to the schedule. So that was like my second day. And I started having pain everywhere, like in my heels, my legs. I started getting like shooting, zapping pains out of my head, my hands, they were shaking. Um, like fire, like my body was on fire, burning skin. The muscle pain is like, you've been floxed, you know that, the muscle pain, the joint pain. And I said, what the heck is this? My husband said, maybe you just overdid it today because you did a lot of cooking and cleaning. I said, nope, this is something different. Like, I can't even stand on my heels. It hurts so bad. And so while I was trying to put him to bed that night, doing his night routine, I was supposed to have taken my fourth pill, but I was limping at that point. And I was like, I don't think I should take this fourth pill. I don't know what the heck is going on, but I am literally limping right now. And I said, you know what? I'll put you to bed. Tomorrow in the morning, I'll be fine. So I woke up the next morning. I couldn't get out of bed. I could not walk. So I said, oh my God, I need to go to the hospital. And I went to the hospital. And when I got there, I said, I like can't walk. This is like out of the blue. The only thing that's changed is that I'm taking an antibiotic, and I know it can't be that. That's actually what I said. I know it can't be that. And the ER doctor said, are you taking Cipro? So you can imagine my panic. Yes, I'm taking Cipro. Why? And that's the day he explained to me what a black box warning was and that Cipro had one, although he said the black box warning was only for Achilles heel tendonitis. It at least let me know that something was wrong with that antibiotic that I had taken.
Right.
So that's how I got to the beginning part.
Wow. Okay. That's for most of us. I mean, it sounds like we are not made aware of any side effects. So that's pretty common from what I've heard. It's yeah, it's fine. Just take it. It's we give them every day. There is no need to worry about that, and then your life is turned upside down. So how are you doing now regarding your symptoms?
Well, I've had quite a journey because after that, I took such a quick decline. It was very quick. Within 5 months, I was on hospice. I lost over 100, I lost over 100% of my body weight. So 60 pounds when I entered hospice. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't swallow. The pain was just horrendous. I couldn't take any medications. And I didn't realize that I had also developed mast cell activation syndrome from Cipro. So typically, you'll hear people that have been flocked say that they develop sensitivities and they have issues with foods or medications. I had that, but it went to a totally different extreme. So mast cell activation syndrome is, let me take a step back and say, your white blood cells, right? It's part of your immune system. And mast cell activation means that your immune system has been improperly triggered for some reason, a virus, some sort of insult, whatever. And then what happens after that is once your immune system is triggered, it starts to fight everything that you try to do. So everything you put in your mouth, every perfume, clothing you put on, it thinks is an invader. It's like trying to protect you from it. And you have these crazy reactions and in bed for days because of it. And I didn't realize what that was at the time. I actually found out from somebody who was on Reddit, the Floxie's group on Reddit, and he was saying how his whole body was burning. He could no longer even drink water. And my husband reached out to him because at this time I was already on hospice. And he said to my husband, you need to stop focusing on floxing right now. Like stop trying to take magnesium, all the things that we typically do. You need to stop that and you need to focus on mast cell activation syndrome. My husband said, what the heck is mast cell activation syndrome? So we did research and found out that that's probably what I had. So at that point, we worked with doctors who kept saying, nope, that's not what she has. And, they totally write you off once you've been poisoned by fluoroquinolone. They think you're crazy. They don't want to hear it. It's the same spiel for all of us. And it eventually came to a point where my husband said, why don't you just treat her for mast cell activation? You yourself said the treatment is benign and she's going to die anyway. She's on hospice. So just give her the medications. So at this time, I had not eaten for 1 month. 1 month. People told me there's no way I could live. I didn't even drink because I would choke on my saliva, never mind actual fluids. So they prescribed me some medications for mast cell. And within 1 week, I was eating an Ensure pudding. In 1 week. So I still had all the floxing symptoms, none of that goes away. But the fact that I literally couldn't swallow something or eat or drink water was definitely helped by mast cell medications. So I think that's something that a lot of Floxies don't understand that they have. They just say, oh, I have all these reactions. And they're not understanding it's that. And there's actually treatment for that that can help you along your floxing journey, so to speak. So I say it's only been a diagnosis in the United States since 2016, so it's very recent. And doctors still don't really get it. So you have to really seek treatment outside of the Western medicine system here. We seek like naturopaths and functional medicine doctors. They just understand a lot better in general. So I always tell people that come to me that say, I'm eating 3 foods, I have all these reactions, sounds bother me, smells, I immediately say, you might have mast cell activation. You should look into that. So
Would you say a lot of Floxies are aware of this possibility of treatment?
in the United States, they are becoming aware of it. In the more like advocacy and videos you put out, like I've been putting out a series on mast cell activation and fluoroquinolone toxicity syndrome, and people have been saying, oh my goodness, this is what I think I have. Let me try to get these medications and see if they help. They don't fix it, but they help you. Like, for example, before I took these medications, I had no foods, 0. Today, I only have 6. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, it's better than 0. So these medications help me to some degree. So I just have it very bad. My immune system got destroyed by Cipro.
So is this treatment accessible to people, or like financially speaking, Let's take this factor in your country at least.
Yeah, so for in the United States, I'm different. I have to have all my medication compounded by a compounding pharmacy that removes all the fillers from medications. But you can, in the United States, you can buy these things over the counter. They're called H1, H2 blockers.
Oh.
So an H1 blocker would be like a Claritin, Zyrtec, stuff like that. And an H2 blocker is famotidine. That's the only option that we have here. So you take those in combination, which block both the receptors for a mast cell. And then they also have other things that are prescription, like sodium cromolyn, ketotifen. There's other kinds of medications, but those two things that the doctors always start you with are over the counter here in the United States. So they might be in France as well. You mean if you have allergy medication in France, they probably have it too.
With your story, I mean, you've been interviewed from the national TV in Boston, right?
Yeah, in Boston, News Nation, Scene TV. Yeah, I've been on a lot.
That's very interesting. I mean, compared to France, I mean, I don't think it's very common to talk about that, at least in the newspaper, but it's very rare to hear people's testimonies on national TVs. Would you say, I mean, how did you live, and how was this experience with the TV? Like, did you feel like you had a lot of support? Do you think it has changed people's view on antibiotics now?
I definitely think so. Like when I first got sick, I wasn't really documenting anything. I was on hospice, end of life care. So what was the point of documenting anything? I wasn't going to be here, but obviously by some miracle, I am still here. And it took me about a year after that to be able to even speak to anybody. It's just so traumatic going through this. And my husband said, you need to tell your story, especially this mast cell stuff and fluoroquinolones. And I had to get myself to the place, mentally, emotionally to be able to tell my story because that there's going to be a lot of negative and I have to be able to let that roll off my shoulder. But there's also going to be a lot of positive. And I had some people reach out to me and asked on TikTok and asked if I wanted to be part of an FDA writing campaign. This is how it all started. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, you just write a letter to the FDA about what happened to you. So I wrote this letter to the FDA and then I read my letter on TikTok and it went viral. And then everybody started reaching out to me. And this is the biggest part. This is crazy. The FDA called me. They contacted me after that letter. And I thought, I can't even believe they give a crap. Like they care enough to call, not saying that they care to do anything about it. So I had a couple calls with the FDA. And then I started having people reach out to me like crazy. And so then I put another post of a picture on me in my bed, and that went viral. And then that's when the news reached out. And I think the news was so shocked to see what I looked like after antibiotics, the first news station. They were shocked and couldn't believe that I had taken an antibiotic and then was on hospice 5 months later. So they wanted to do that story because they couldn't wrap their heads around it. And then when they started doing research and looking at these warnings, seeing that they've been out since 2008, I got Floxed in 2021. That is plenty of time for doctors to get on board with these warnings. That's when the news station became even more dumbfounded. Like, I can't believe this is still happening. So then once one news station picks up, the rest picks up, right? And one of the greatest things that happened was on one of the news stations I was on, I think the second time, News Nation with Natasha SOUS'S. She told me after my first interview, she had a practice call in and tell her that after they saw my story on News Nation, they no longer prescribed fluoroquinolones at that practice ever. So to me, I said, this is huge. This is what I want. This is making a difference. And so now through all my videos and stuff, I have people reaching out to me every single day. I didn't take this prescription because I saw your TikTok video. And it's all the time. So I always say, since nobody's doing anything from top down, we have to go bottom up, like grassroots effort. And that's what this is. As many of us can tell our stories, as many of us can be advocates, we can make change, even if they don't want to do it from the top, because this whole situation is just insane. Warnings have been out for so long. Nobody's paying attention. There's no ramifications either. When I asked the FDA, like, can't my doctor get in trouble for ignoring your guidelines? Nope. That's what I was told. No. So what's the point of having them? And, that's the thing. Like for my doctor, that was her moment to say, oh, yes, by the way, there's a black box warning, not no, there's nothing you should be aware of. It's safe for you to take. So I look back on that and I'm just frustrated that I trusted my doctor. And I think that's what lots of us do. We just blindly trust them. They tell you it's okay. You just take it. And you know what it actually said on my prescription bottle? It said, avoid prolonged exposure to sunlight, and then avoid minerals while taking this. That's all my bottle said.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's I mean, if only that was the only things you need to be worried about when you take them, that would be great.
I know. That's
Yeah.
why I couldn't wrap my head around that medication did that to me. It's just an antibiotic. I think the advocacy and the news has making a huge difference.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the ICD-10 codes. Are
I
you aware
haven't.
of that?
What is it?
Okay, so ICD-10 codes are diagnostic codes that are used in the United States, and I know they're used in parts of Europe too. That when you go in to see a doctor, the doctor gives you a diagnostic code, and that's how they bill your insurance, right? So here it's ICD. And me and a foundation, Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Study Foundation, I worked with them. Dr. Stephan Pieper was involved. I'm sure you know that name. And we went in front of the CDC and we asked for ICD-10 codes for fluoroquinolone antibiotics. There are ICD-10 codes for almost all antibiotics except fluoroquinolones. And that got approved. They do not take effect until October 2025, but they are approved nonetheless.
Wow,
And
that's a
so
big
that
step.
means, yeah, so that means next year when somebody goes to the hospital like me and says, I took Cipro, I'm sick, I would get an ICD-10 code of adverse effects for fluoroquinolones. That's huge. So that happened this year too in February.
It is. You can be proud of that. I mean, it's almost like saying there is a, like it makes me think of fibromyalgia. Um, this diagnosis that you put everything in it and doesn't mean much. But here in France, I mean, that would be great to have a diagnosis like of toxicity from these antibiotics. I don't see that coming anytime soon in France, though. So,
Yeah, I would say, but the thing is that once one country starts,
right,
that just starts the chain effect, right? So
sure,
it sets the precedence for other countries and stuff like that. So
right. So you're saying, like, can you file a lawsuit like once this will be available, like to have a diagnosis from the toxicity? Like, could you actually do more things regarding like the accountability of your doctor or with the justice system?
well, I'm actually trying to do that now with or without that diagnostic code. I don't need that diagnostic code because I just wasn't warned about this medication. Once I went to my doctor and explained this whole thing and I brought the FDA documentation, she told me that she was going to continue to prescribe the medication regardless and that it was safe and effective. She's always prescribed it. So to me, that was just so wrong. I'm showing you the FDA documentation and you're just totally ignoring me. So I'm trying to sue now. I don't know what will come of it. I know that most people aren't successful, but we'll see what happens.
Well, good luck with that because it seems like quite of, I mean, it takes a lot of time. You don't know what you're going to get, but at least it's going to, like set a precedent, and maybe it's going to help a lot of people, I'm sure. So today, what can you, like, have you seen any improvements with your physical state?
It's extremely slow. Extremely slow. I'm still on palliative care, actually. I transferred off of hospice and moved to palliative care. I still need 24/7 care. I can't even get out of bed by myself. I still have a long way to go, but obviously I'm better because I'm not on hospice and I'm able to speak and tell my story, which I wasn't able to do before. But yeah, I'm still only eating 6 foods. I'm very underweight, and I still need people to take care of me 24/7. I actually do not do any treatments for fluoroquinolone toxicity at all. I am focusing on mast cell because my mast cell is just so out of control that it prevents me from taking things like magnesium, from having the nutrition that I need that would probably help me heal faster. But I think you know that once people get like sick to this point, their immune system is attacked. They end up getting sick all the time. All these viruses come in. You don't know where they came from because I'm bedbound, I'm homebound. So how can I have all these viruses? How can I get sick? It's just that my immune system has been under attack since 2021. So I still have a long way to go. I've tried a lot of things, but right now I'm dabbling in the peptide world, which seems to be helping a little bit.
So today, if you were to take magnesium, what would happen, you think?
I would have one of my crazy mast cell reactions, a rash, hives, fainting, dizziness, like stomach problems. My neuropathy would get worse. When you have a mast cell attack, the best way I can explain it is like you're in your worst flox state, right? You know how you have like all the nerve pain, like for me it was the zapping. I can't even bend my fingers, the muscles.
Mm.
It's like that. You get a reaction like that. Everything that's wrong with you just gets worse throughout your whole body. So that's what happens when you
Right.
have a mast cell attack. So that's why I'm also making these videos to show people like, how do you know if it's mast cell? How do you know if it's floxing? Maybe it's both, you know? Yeah, magnesium wrecks me. I ended up in the hospital from taking magnesium in the IV. I thought that's the right thing to do because Floxies take magnesium. Not this one. Not right now.
If you take compliments, you have a bad reaction. So not all the people that are fluxed have this diagnosis. It's like an extreme phase of being fluxed, right? From what I
Right,
understand.
right. Not everybody develops mast cell when they're floxed.
Okay.
I just did, and I got it very bad. So
Okay. How do you get the diagnosis from that? I may have asked you that, but I'm not sure.
yeah. So in the United States, there's 2 ways through the Western medicine doctors, through a test called tryptase. That is not a reliable test at all because when you're having a mast cell attack, if tryptase is one of your mediators that is affected, you have like 30 seconds to get blood work and measure it. That's just not going to happen. So I threw that out the window. I was never going to get the diagnosis I needed from the Western medicine system. You go over to the functional medicine system, and they base mast cell off of a clinical diagnosis. It's called consensus 2. So there are tests that they can run. They combine them together to infer the mast cell, and then they have to prove that it's a okay, this is a lot to say, multi-system, multi-symptom syndrome. So like if you eat something and you're like, oh, my stomach hurts, I don't feel good, but that's all that happens to you, that's not mast cell. If you are like, I ate something and oh my goodness, I think I'm going to pass out, I have a rash, I have hives, like my tremors are starting again, something like that. That's when they say, okay, that's multi-symptom, multi-system syndrome. So I've been diagnosed by like 5 functional medicine doctors with it. So yeah, it's definitely and plus, I took mast cell stabilizers for 1 week and was able to eat a pudding. 1 + 1 = 2, so
So how many people do you think have this condition while being fluxed?
A lot. I think there's varying degrees of mast cell. I think some people have a little bit of sensitivities and a little bit, and I think I'm the super flox. So I'm like the over here. And I have met other people just like me who have mast cell really bad. So it's just how our body reacts, how our immune system reacts. But I think, I don't know, maybe half. I don't know. That's just a guess by all the people that I talk to that have all these kind of reactions, and they all tell me they're eating three, four foods, and that's just like me. So yeah, I think it's more than what people realize because floxing symptoms and mast cell are so similar. When you have a mast cell attack, it feels like you've been refloxed all over again to day one. So it's very hard to tell the difference.
Like for people who don't have it at the beginning of their fluxing, can it come up later or
Yes, it can. It can because remember it's a incorrect response for your immune system. So it's like the longer you stay sick, the more things that come, and then your mast cells, your white blood cells are going to try to defend you. They just get confused.
that's pretty worrying. That's that's the most scary part of being flux is that you never know when it's what you're going to wake up with. Like one day it seems like, oh, I'm doing better, and then you eat something like a steak or fish, and all of a sudden you can't you can barely walk. That's my situation at least. I don't want to talk for everybody, but recently I took okay, that's a question I wanted to ask you. Before taking the Cypro, um, did you take any other antibiotics like Flagyl, or was it the first one you had?
Like in my lifetime or for that UTI?
Right, in your lifetime, I guess. Yeah, in your lifetime.
I had actually taken Flagyl
Oh,
3 years before that. I did.
yeah.
Yep. And then yeah. And then before that, I don't like some antibiotics as a child, earache, stuff like that, but nothing really as an adult. So Flagyl's a bad one too.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see a link between you being fluxed and Flagyl you took three years before?
I don't know how I would link it for me because after I was very sick when I took Flagyl, it made me sick.
Oh,
But I felt fine afterwards. I felt like I went back to normal.
oh,
So maybe I didn't genetically, but like I felt like I was fine. And then, so it wasn't like, oh, I started having issues when I took Flagyl. I went back to normal. So,
okay. Well, tell us about your badge then. So it has to do with your as a group on like an association, or it's like it seems pretty official. The badge you have it has to do with
oh, this is Floxed?
okay, yeah.
This
Oh,
is Flox. It's my logo that I created. And I know like
so,
we all wear it. We all had it on Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Awareness Day. It's
uh,
official for me, but
right.
not official by anybody else. But you see everybody wearing it. We had t-shirts made. We have
Wow.
an Amazon store that people buy stuff.
Oh,
No profit, by the way, no
oh,
profit. Yeah, this is Flox. People wear these to the doctor's office. They're trying to raise awareness anywhere they can. They go out to a restaurant. They got This is Flox. They make their YouTube videos. They got This is Flox. It's pretty amazing how it's just like it catches on and everybody wants to raise awareness. And one of the things I noticed when we had this big Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Awareness Day on October 22nd was people actually wanted to tell their stories. They were just scared. And so a lot of people told me on that day that was the first time that they did because it was, Toxicity Awareness Day. They're like, you brought me out of my shell. You made me tell my story. It's great. Keep going. People need to hear our stories because it's not just Talia from Massachusetts, the United States. It's all over the world. France, Germany, Poland, like all these people that reach out to me on a regular basis. This is a worldwide issue. It is not Massachusetts or United States. And people are often too afraid to speak about it. They're too sick or they're too afraid or whatever.
That's awesome that you, and I mean, even if you have, even the fact that you have a Flux day, that's, I mean, I don't see that happening in France as well. I feel like people are talking more about it in the US than than in France.
We just made these things for ourselves to raise awareness. Like think of it like you're having a birthday party, right? And you're sending out invitations and everyone's coming to the party that day, right? We're like, we're gonna have an awareness day. And it's we had a survey, everybody voted what day they wanted it to be, what it was gonna be called, and then we're like, boom, there's our day. That's just how we did it. So
So I wanted to ask you in terms of maybe cognitive side effects, like have you noticed any impairments regarding memory? I've heard it's pretty common. Uh, people seem to be quite, forgetful sometimes. Have you had any issues?
actually not that many, and I'm very lucky. I had a lot of those issues when I first got floxed. Um, it was really bad with like nightmares, and they've published psychiatric effects of fluoroquinolones. I think I had like all of them at the beginning. It was just horrible. But my mind was so strong before, somehow it's managed to keep that. I am not 100%. Like I do have problems remembering things now. Not a lot, but I just know I'm not as sharp as I used to be. But I feel like my body got hit so bad and my mind got hit a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, and for other people, I think it's the reverse. Like they psychologically get hit so strong, but not physically, and people don't think there's anything wrong with them, but they're still floxed and they're still experiencing the adverse effects. It's just each person is affected differently. But yeah, I mean, I'd say this part of me is still strong. It's just not the way it was before I got sick. And the other thing I can't handle is stress. Uh, I was stressed out all the time before. I had a very stressful job and taking care of my husband, and I had a way to like I managed that stress. But now when stress comes into my life, like I'm wrecked. I have to go to bed. All my symptoms start coming, like in full force. And that is definitely since I've been flocked. So whatever stress does to our mitochondria, it's not good.
Hmm.
It's not good.
Um, did you have to stop everything that may contain any fluor, like like toothpaste, right?
I did right away.
Right,
And I was taking one medication that I took for 23 years. It's called omeprazole.
right,
Yep, I took that for 23 years, and as soon as I found out I was floxed, the doctor said, "Don't you dare stop that. Cold turkey, you're gonna be sick, you're gonna experience all these symptoms." I stopped taking it right away. But I also wasn't eating, so you know what that treat's for, right? So I stopped right away. And then any medication, I use this website called thetruthaboutfluoride.com. You can go there and type in your medication to see if it has fluoride in it, if you're prescribed something. So many times they attempted to prescribe things to me and I won't take it because I see it has fluoride. I don't know what it would do if I took it, had it, drank it in a little bit of water, but I'm not willing to take that risk. So I've had, functional medicine doctors, regenerative medicine doctors say that you just need to stay away from fluoride. That's enough for me. I don't want to mess with it. So
right.
I've heard people say I brush my teeth with Crest toothpaste. I'm fine. Really? Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm still too messed up to try it. So,
So perhaps let's talk about, the fact that most of the victims who are fluxed, didn't get a chance to perhaps have um, a test, that can make sure that they actually have a UTI. So maybe let's talk about this subject, if you mind.
yeah. So one of the things I say every time I'm interviewed, because I've talked to so many people that have been floxed and they had no test done. They were prescribed antibiotics over the phone through a Zoom call, whatever. and they actually didn't even really need them. So the spiel I give every time I'm getting interviewed is this. If you are being treated for a UTI, if you think you have a UTI, make sure you request a urinalysis and a culture. Those are the things that are going to make sure you actually have a urinary tract infection. And the culture is important because the culture will tell you what organism is in your bladder and what antibiotic you need to take. So you could have a UTI and a fluoroquinolone is the wrong antibiotic. So you want to make sure you have a UTI and you're taking the correct antibiotic. So I say that every time because we don't want people to be floxed for no reason at all. And those stories hurt me the most, that they could have totally avoided it by getting that test. And it's so simple to do. You just have to be an advocate for yourself and request those tests. And as much as it pains to go through the symptoms before you get the results, you just have to stick it out if you possibly can and get that data before, so you can make an informed decision.
Right, that's a very good point. I don't even see how an antibiotic with a black box can be prescribed, without even be sure that you actually have a UTI or a close,
I know. It used to not be like that here. You had to get a urinalysis, and somewhere along the line, it changed. And then you just call and you say, "Oh, it burns when I pee." Boom, here's your antibiotic. They
yeah,
don't even know what's going on in there. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. And, I don't know like how the warnings are in France, but in the United States, there are 7 black box warnings. And the one in 2016 says fluoroquinolone antibiotics are to be used as last resort only when no other options are available. Most people don't know that. So if you are watching this, remember that. Last resort only because of their permanent and disabling side effects. This comes from the US FDA. It's right on their website. It's not me making up this information or any foundation. This is a fact. And the FDA also says that fluoroquinolones in the United States have the most adverse effects of any drug on the market. Any drug. So not just antibiotic, any drug. They're number 1 on the list, and but they're 4 times more than number 2 on the list, which is not an antibiotic. So you can say the most dangerous drug on the market would be fluoroquinolones if they have the most adverse events, which they do. So this is not speculation. This is not people that have been floxed making this into something. This is fact. This is reality.
Right. What we would love is to, actually not be able to buy it in a pharmacy, and that only you could get that in a hospital while, uh, on the brink of death. I don't know how to say that, but you're on the point of dying and you have no choices. I'm sure you take them, but why risking your life if you have a UTI and if other antibiotics are available? I mean, that's just crazy to me that what you just said is really shocking that they are actually the most dangerous medications and not only antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. Of all drugs,
Wow.
they are number 1.
So let me ask you this. So did you, I'm sure you've got many tests, blood tests done. Um, so has any of those tests, showed any deficiency, or have you been able to do any exams that were pertinent, to see you fluxing?
No, there aren't really exams that we can do for this. Typically, when people are floxed and they first get sick, that we hear the same thing all the time. Your labs look fine. Your blood work is fine, but you're not fine. You're falling apart. You're having all these symptoms, but because floxing symptoms don't fit nicely in a box, doctors don't know what to do with you. So they toss you to a neurologist or rheumatologist, all these doctors, and nobody can help you because they don't know what to do with you. And there isn't a specific blood test that says, bam, you're floxed. I wish there was a blood test, but there isn't. And, United States, we have this thing called organic acid test. It's by Mosaic now. That's the company, and you can buy it yourself. You don't need a doctor for it, but you definitely need a doctor to interpret your results. It basically gives you some mitochondrial markers. It
Oh,
measures them. So, and shows like your GABA, like places where you may be deficient or there's issues with your Krebs cycle and stuff like that. So that was very helpful. So I saw that. And obviously you saw all the mitochondrial issues in my oats test to know, like, yeah, I took a fluoroquinolone. That's why I have all these issues. So it's called oats organic acid test through Mosaic. My advice when someone first gets floxed, and if you've watched any of my videos, you'll see me say this. Don't rush and take a bunch of supplements because you need to first let your body like plateau. Like your body is freaking out. You just have been poisoned by a fluoroquinolone. So, and then you start popping all these pills in, which may or may not be right for you because you really need to start looking into your genetics once you've been floxed. So they could make you worse. And so one of the things my mast cell doctor said to me is faster sometimes ends up being slower, right? Because you're trying to move so fast, you have setbacks, and then it makes your healing process go slower, which is true, which is what I found. Because when I first got floxed, I did the same thing. And I could take magnesium at the beginning before the mast cells came in to torture me. But I was like magnesium, curcumin, resveratrol, like melatonin, all this stuff. And then I went to get like IVs. Oh my God, that was the end of me. There was no more stuff after those IVs. Um, and I just feel like people need to lay low, do a little research on your body, like take any kind of toxicity test because you may have other stuff in your body too, other than a fluoroquinolone. And when you go through these detoxes, you will not only detox fluoroquinolones, you'll detox whatever else is inside of you that you're not expecting. For instance, maybe you have heavy metals or you have Lyme disease that you don't know about. And then you get so messed up and you don't realize why. It's because you had multiple things going on. Um, so that's always my advice is just wait, do your research, and then when you do start taking supplementation, whenever you feel like or your doctor feels like that's the right time for you, one at a time. Onboard them because when you take a ton at once, you don't know what's working and what's not. So you're gonna take one. Is there improvement? Okay, I'm keeping this one. Two. I don't know anything about this one. Ditch that. Like that's what I would say to do because I think so many Floxies just set themselves back by wanting it's understandable. This situation is miserable. You want to get fast as better as fast as possible. But like I said, faster sometimes end up being slower. So
all right. That's a pretty good advice. I mean, and I feel like it's almost a natural reaction. You are so bad and you want to take everything and you don't trust your doctors, and so it's like, I'm going to do it on my own, and then like you said, you can just make your case much worse. I myself took homeopathy to at but it didn't work out. I mean, I ended up much worse. So you're right. I mean, people should very be aware of that.
I think the genetics is very important so you can see where you have like deficiencies. And those are the things I didn't even think about when I first got flocks. And then when I worked with a geneticist and said, "Oh, look, you have this glutathione SNP or this." Oh, maybe that's why I got so sick when I took glutathione. Like those things are like light bulbs that I think people should know before they start popping supplements. It could like makes a huge difference.
So how can can you test all of these? Because like well, first they're quite expensive, and I'm not sure you can do it with a normal doctor like your GP. Um, so do you have to, like in the US, do you have to see a special doctor to test all of that?
Yeah, and it's typically out of pocket. It's typically someone that's a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor or an actual geneticist, and you pay them the way we do it here. I don't know what the difference in price is, but I think my test was like $700 for the
Okay.
genetic test,
Yeah.
and you spit in the tube, saliva, and you mail it in, and then they meet with you like 8 weeks later to go over all your genetics. So but that $700 was mind blowing to me when I saw all the stuff on there because you have genes, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are expressed. But when you see them and you also talk about your symptoms with this person, you realize that these genes have been turned on and I need to be aware of this and not take this or that. Even I've noticed in the genetics will also like steer you in the kind of supplement you have to take. Like you have to take that version of B12, not that version. Oh, I didn't know it was like so complicated. So yeah, but yeah, that's what we do here. For me, it was $700 and yeah,
But it was worth it, right? You made the best of it. Okay. Yeah.
every penny.
Okay. So would you recommend any people who have been flux to, right? So I guess first tip is not to rush to all the supplements yourself, because like you said, I mean, it can be very tricky. Certain type of vitamin, so there is that, and also to get a very accurate test that is going to show all of the deficiencies. It's not, money thrown out of the window. It's an advice you would give to people who have been fluxed.
I would, and I would also add in there if you have the ability to get a any kind of mycotoxin test, which would show heavy metals or anything like that. Again, that same company, Mosaic, and there's other companies that do it. You don't even need a doctor. Sometimes it's mostly by urine, um, some are by blood, but it would be nice to know what's going on inside of you before you start any kind of protocol.
Right.
Because I feel like so I don't know how it is there, but here it's like this trifecta that I feel like Floxies end up getting. Like you get Floxed, then some people get mast cells, some don't. Then this is the ones that come in. All of a sudden, Floxies have Lyme, they have mold, they have heavy metals. You're like, I was never sick before. Where did all this stuff come from? It's just sitting there waiting for the right opportunity to like come get you. So that's why I say I feel like it's good if you do those kind of analysis. If you can, not everybody can, but if you
Right.
have the ability, it's important. And you can do those on your own. You don't need
Right.
a doctor.
Right, that's the good part. In Europe, at least, yeah, there is a center called MEDICROSS, and you actually send a piece of hair.
Mm.
Yeah, and they give you loads of, yeah, information that may be helpful. So you know what? You actually motivated me to do this test, because I was like, okay, I do the test, and then I'm going to see that everything is messed up. But what do I do about it? Because doctors won't be able to help me. So what's the point? But still, you recommend to do it so as to then try to perhaps implement the right supplements at the right time, and maybe, like you said, to find out that you had an illness that you had no idea about. So that's a very, very good advice you just gave people. So how could people reach out to you, perhaps? And like you are quite active on social media. I'm sure people could highly benefit from all the advice you give, and perhaps the community around you. So tell us more about on what social platform they could find you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere now. And before this, all I had was Facebook. I didn't know how to use any technology, but I'm pretty much everywhere now. But I do tell people to use my link tree, Finding Vulneraries. Go there, and all my social media profiles will be there. I also have documentation from the FDA and fluoroquinolones and some educational videos. If you're interested, but it's Finding Vulneraries.
I'm really impressed by the fight you are leading, and I can tell you're not giving up, and you are, you know, here showing the best of yourself. I can tell it's a hard fight, but you are still here and you are speaking about it. We really appreciate that. Perhaps there is a last, maybe you want to add something to people who are watching us, perhaps a message of hope.
I have a big message of hope because I call myself the super flox, but listen, I was on hospice, end of life care. I had my last rites read to me in my home by a priest and was told I had 1 month to go. So it does not get any darker than that, let me tell you, or any more humbling. And to come to the acceptance of that, right? And here I am. So
You
you
are.
never know. In your darkest moments where you feel like there's no way I'm going to get out of this, there's no way I'm going to get better. Remember my story, because in my darkest moments, not only did I think I wasn't going to be here, I was told I wasn't going to be here. And I am. So you never know what can happen. I would say also, very important is if somehow you can, if you see in my videos, I say, get your mind right. Yeah, it's a lot easier said than done, right? But you have to, how do I say this? Because this is what really helped me. When I was on hospice and I thought I was going to pass away, I was no longer afraid of dying. And that is what made me so scared when I first got floxed. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I got to take this. I don't want to die. I'm going to get worse. You know what I mean? So, in a way, as horrible as that experience was, it was also freeing for me, right? I don't have that in the back of my mind anymore. Like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Every time I feel a symptom or take a supplement that backfires on me, and let me tell you, so many things backfire on me because I have mast cell. And I don't have that frame of mind anymore. So if there's any way you can get yourself to a place that doesn't make that as the number one driver of your treatment and your protocol, I think you'll be much better off in the long run. That I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. No, don't focus on that. Focus on now, today, because you have no idea what's gonna happen tomorrow.
Wow.
Look at me. So that's my message of hope.
Wow, that was so powerful, and it's I feel like if you overcome that and you realize that you know when once you've been through it and you are out of it, you are such a stronger person, and you um I mean, I don't want to spoil because you've said that your message was so powerful, so we are going to leave it at that. Really, thank you so much for being here. I really love the way you express yourself and you share your stories. It's so, it's going to give a lot of people courage, I'm sure.
If you need anything, reach out to me, especially you, obviously. And I'll just say one more thing
But,
before we go, is
but
that everyone that is floxed out there watching this or thinking that you're floxed, you have to be your own advocate. Nobody is going to fight for you in this battle. Nobody. Because people don't understand, they don't believe. And you need to be strong in your belief and feeling that you're floxed, and don't let anyone in here. This is going to ruin your progress. It's going to ruin your healing. You know you've been floxed. You stay tunnel vision on your recovery and your health and ignore everything else. I promise you will get better. Again, look at me.
That was,
Thank you.
thank you.